Breakfast Bible Bites.
Hello and welcome to today's Breakfast Bible Bites. Today we're going to look at a young man whose name was Mephibosheth. Can you say that name? Mephibosheth. And we can read about him in 2 Samuel chapter 9. Now, Mephibosheth was Jonathan's son and Saul's grandson. Now, when Mephibosheth was really young, him and his mother were in danger. And the Bible says that his nurse picked him up and tried to escape. But as they were running away, there was a tragic accident and Mephibosheth fell. And he fell and he hurt himself so badly that he couldn't walk properly for the rest of his life. And so for the rest of his life, poor Mephibosheth couldn't walk properly, which at that time probably meant that he couldn't get a job and he couldn't earn money. So it was very sad for Mephibosheth. The Bible tells us that when King Saul had died, David became the king. Now Saul was a bad king, but David was a good king and David followed God. And David wanted to be kind. Mephibosheth's dad, Jonathan, was David's best friend. But sadly, Jonathan had died. And David wanted to be kind to Jonathan's family. So he asked around, and King David found out that Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, was still alive. And so David called Mephibosheth to him. And something remarkable happened. David told Mephibosheth that because he was Jonathan's son, he wanted to bless him. And you know, David allowed Mephibosheth to stay in the palace and to eat his dinner with the king for the rest of his life. So Mephibosheth had spent most of his life not being able to walk, not being able to work. He was probably treated very badly, and people didn't care about Mephibosheth. But King David offered Mephibosheth a place to live in the palace and told him that he could eat his dinner with the king every day for the rest of his life. David was very kind to Mephibosheth, and it's such a nice ending to this story that Mephibosheth spent the rest of his life living in the palace and eating with the king. But you know, that story in the Bible tells us and reminds us about another story later on. You see, Jesus is like King David and we are like Mephibosheth. We're not special. In fact, because of all the bad things we've done, we're a little bit broken. But the Bible tells us that when we trust in Jesus, he allows us to live with him. And like Mephibosheth spent the rest of his life living and talking and being friends with the king, when we follow Jesus, that means we can be friends with God. And we can spend the rest of our life talking with God in prayer, spending time with God. And one day we will live forever with God and always be with him. Isn't that a great story? So when we read about Mephibosheth, we can remind ourselves about what God has done for us. Thank you for watching Breakfast Bible Bites, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.